It's up there as Dr. Neil Costigan, and actually I have to say, coming in here, I was a bit intimidated. I'm a cryptographer by training, and to be in the Alan Turing lecture hall is kind of a bit of a surprise when I walked in. It's named actually outside, it's the father of artificial intelligence, but to some of us he's a cryptographer and my hero, so nice to be here. And I mean to put that in context. Normally doctor just goes for the German market, but I'm putting it up here today. And what we're doing is behavioural biometrics, and it's this thing is, you know, security geeks like me made smart cards and dongles and tokens and all this kind of stuff that was, you know, appropriate in a certain context, but they just don't seem to work in what we call the consumer or the front space. So it's this thing that there is this idea of a legacy where it's very expensive, very complex, very secure. We have to admit some of these solutions are great and they do what they're supposed to. But this kind of idea that there's a door, a big safe, and you open it up with a big key, and if it's Fort Knox security or it's buying a cup of coffee and you're using the same type of technology and cost and experience in that, it just doesn't seem appropriate. So there's a movement in the industry that the kind of enterprise internal security that IT systems had 10 years ago just isn't appropriate to a bunch of kids on a bus buying bus tickets. Like it's a more dynamic, better user experience, or no user experience if the truth be known. So all this talk about passwords disappearing and stuff, if we can get the security out of the front of the consumers or the end users and kind of in the back where the geeks like me kind of know the answers to some of those big hard questions and can look at it. And so this is the movement. It's more smarter, it's risk-based. Back to this analogy, you know, do you need to pay $100 of a security token for a $4 cup of coffee? Surely a bicycle lock is appropriate for a bicycle and a safe is appropriate for the central bank. And so that's kind of analogy where it is. And a lot of it is automated, that there isn't people involved. So this kind of yes or no security is actually now becoming a, well what's going on here? And these technologies are being applied. And they're being applied everywhere. There's loads of different types of security layers. There's no silver bullet to it. They're all being layered on top of each other. And the one particular one we have and we bring to the market is around behavioural biometrics. So it's this, like security normally is, you know, you get to the person, who are you, you know, and you're asking for passwords and mother's maiden name, and do you have the dongle, can you find the smart card? And it's this kind of old game of, you know, what's there? You're trying to take out that. You're trying to straight away know if the person is who they say they are. So behavioural biometrics is, and it's going to sound like buzzword bingo when it says big data and AI. So everybody is machine learning, everybody's AI. But this is actually where the breakthrough came. We kind of innovated 5 years ago or so, coming out of a university in Sweden, to use new techniques of gaming, how smart games are there. So, you know, if you're walking down the corridor and you turn left every time you play the game, the 10th time you play that game, there's somebody around the corner waiting to shoot you. We're applying those little bots, that AI, into your behavior. What's your behavior normally like? If we can predict what it's like, then we know who you are. But if you veer from that behavior, we can tell it's not you. So we get millions and millions of users, millions and millions of transactions, actually billions of transactions, and precede these AI engines, so we can do it in real time. So when your behavior comes in, we can look at your legacy behavior and using all the smarts, we can decide if it's you or not. So that's the model. And when we say behavioural biometrics, our version of it is, and there's a couple of different types, but what we're watching in the very basic is the keystroke speed, the rhythm of how you're typing, how you move from one key to the next, how fast you go between two, how you go from A, B, and A, N, and E, and IL, and all these timings. And you have rhythm and you have patterns into it. And the same with the mouse, you know, are you a kind of swipe over or swipe under? Do you hover over the button? Do you right click, left click? All those kind of little patterns are there, and small nuances. And of course, since we've gone to the smart device, you've got so much more free data just around you. So it's how much of the finger is on the button, not just, you know, you pressed A, but how much of your finger is left there, what pressure have you put on it, how do you swipe over it. And using all these accelerometers, gyroscopes, all these things that are in your phone, we can build up a very, very strong profile on who you are. And there's more to it then. There's what's going on around. You tend to come on the same networks because, you know, you have a BT subscriber or a Vodafone subscriber. If you're flicking an awful lot, it probably isn't you. So we're looking for integrity, we're looking for patterns and behavior in the background. And also because we're not looking for robots, we're looking for humans. And because we can sense if it's you or not you, we can also spot malware and bots. So these kind of side effects of behavioral biometrics are quite useful as well. And it's important to note as well that this isn't just a password thing. It isn't enhancing a PIN or a password. It's all the time. as you're going through your accounts, as you're looking for account overview, as your new payee. We're in the background monitoring and building the profile, and in real time providing the security and fraud people, is this Neil with a certainty. So that's how it works. So conceptually, most people, believe it or not, use a backward S. It's the 1, 2, 3. It's the QWERTY or the password 1 of passwords. But on swiping, actually, most people actually have a backwards S as their pattern. And if you see, let me see if I can, hopefully it works on this. But that same pattern to us, I'm going to go back one. That same pattern to us is, it's the pressure and the area and the speed and the angle. So you can see there's 3 different people doing the exact same thing. You can kind of tell visually how we see them as different. So that's the kind of thing that's going on. And the phone's Moore's Law has been very kind to us. You can do all this in real time. You can do it all in the device itself. And so that's the extra stuff we're doing. And just on, as we said, password replacement, we would have the typing as you type across. It's how hard and how fast and how quick you move across them. And it's the millisecond timings between them. So it's just really watching the little nuances, the rhythm, not what you're typing. We don't care you type Telegraph. It's how you do it, the rhythm. And another thing about biometrics as opposed to older security stuff is most of the yes, no, is it you or not. With biometrics, you can have, well, if it's not you, who is it? And we can then, this is just a scatter plot of everybody working away. And if you get close enough to it, you can start seeing little areas around it. And what we would see here from all these different people typing passwords and usernames, we flatten these 22 dimensions of tests from pressure and keys and accelerometers and angles and bring it down. You can start seeing where everybody is. So, we know if a fraudster has been on a certain account and we've flagged it up, there's been bad behavior, you can subsequently see that person's coming in. So it's not just, who is it? It's maybe from a list of people we've seen before. So typical architecture from this would be standard e-commerce. There's an app out there, a website out there, and you have the infrastructure. And in the back end, we're wrapping up this AI and big data in a kind of e-commerce style web services, language independent, cloud-based system. And the security guys have a dashboard and they can see it, and in real time you'll see the scores coming in and out. And as I said, we can do all this in the device itself. We've been funded for this innovation from DARPA. So to speak to the accelerator, we came out of a university and went to accelerator who helped us hone our idea, which obviously isn't a FinTech alone, being security, but it's the early adopting market. So we've gone to market initially with banks and payments and stuff because it's the place with the pain and where you guys are all interested in, but also into the high security handsets and that. We can either do it on the network or in the device. So it's all very invisible, it's all out there. We're up to, this is a map of customer base at this stage, 34 million users, consumer users with the technology in their hands from us alone. Now our peers, there's a number of other firms doing it, and they do different types of behavior, looking at, say, things like transactions amounts and time of day and when you do them, or possibly introducing some new user interfaces that you have to react to. And they're all part of cognitive behavior and behavior analysis. But us alone, we've done about 4 billion transactions this year, and we're spread mainly Scandinavia, Northern Europe, Switzerland, France, Germany, with the early adopters. But as we've seen over the end of this year, this thing is getting out all across. So our big statistics, our infograph, whatever, we're a small firm, 25 people out of a university. And at this stage, we've spread it to 6 countries, and there is 4 billion, as I said, in transactions is there. But you don't see it. It's in the background. Most of the consumers don't know it's there. It's just one more layer of security. Again, no silver bullet, so everything they can find is there. And so we have it as an innovation with the user experience and with consumer-facing being the driver. You have this type of technology, everywhere at this stage. So that's my little bit of background to behavioural biometrics and what's in behind it.
Great, thank you, Neil.